The Fallout TV show shifted the narrative of Fallout from the East Coast to the much more interesting West Coast setting. Most importantly, it heavily expanded the lore of the Fallout universe and what's been happening between Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 4. The ending of the show drops a massive bomb on us, hinting at Season 2 taking us back to the neon jewel of the desert, New Vegas. With that being said, I thought it would be great to make a video on all the background details to catch you up on everything before Season 2 drops, probably in 2026. My name is John Does Warhammer, and this is everything you need to know before Fallout Season 2. Now before we begin, massive spoilers for New Vegas, a little bit of Fallout 4 maybe, and the Fallout TV show, cause like, duh, that should be obvious. This video will not be about the main characters and their stories. I'll leave that up to the TV show to tell. What I want to focus on is the background world building lore that gets shown in the show, but never completely spelled out for us, as well as what I think happened to New Vegas and where I think the story will take us. Firstly, a recap of the Fallout TV show. The TV show takes place around Los Angeles and the former capital of the new California Republic, Shady Sands. It's never explicitly told to us where Shady Sands is in lore, but generally somewhere in California. In Fallout 1 and 2, it looks like it's along the border of Nevada and Cali, but it seems the TV show moved it much closer to LA. We discover in the show that Shady Sands has been completely destroyed, nuked by Vault Tech sometime after the second battle of the Hoover Dam. Don't worry, we'll get there. Carried out by our protagonist's father, who is a pre-war Vault Tech executive and overseer of Vault 33. The NCR we see in the show is barely a shadow of its former self. Citizens who used to live a life where settling down, having access to clean food and drinking water, free public education, where survival was not just the norm but was expected. Now they're scavengers, barely finding enough to sustain themselves. It's a dire sight, and while a small militia of NCR troops set up an outpost in the ruins of LA, a Brotherhood of Steel assault pretty easily wipes them out. It's not looking good for the NCR, and in the show it doesn't even look like they exist. However, I have my doubts that this is the full picture, but we'll get there later. Hank, our protagonist's father, escapes the battle between NCR and the BOS and heads to New Vegas. And that's the rough outline of what happened. Of course, there's so much more going on, like with cold fusion technology, the ghoul looking for his family, the massive fuck-off cryo vault housing now century-old Vault Tech executives, and much more. Now, why would a former, or I guess current, Vault Tech executive be escaping to Las Vegas? And the answer is to find Mr. House, a very charismatic character who played a vital role during the events of Fallout New Vegas, and was revealed to be in cahoots with Vault Tech and their plan to destroy the world and rebuild it in their image. Hank needs something from House, and what that is, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out, but this is a great segue into the events of Fallout New Vegas and the second battle of Hoover Dam. Fallout New Vegas takes place in 2282, 14 years before the events of the TV show, and there's a lot to cover, so buckle up. Between the events of Fallout 2 and Fallout 3, the new California Republic has been busy. They've been rapidly expanding in all directions, up Northern California to Baja California, and have now set their eyes on New Vegas and, more importantly, the Hoover Dam. Before the NCR made its way into the Mojave Desert, pre-war tech billionaire Robert House reawakens from his stasis around 2138. He's in this crazy stasis machine that allows him to interact with things through computers, so he's functionally immortal. Well, kinda. In 2274, Mr. House detects NCR scouts at the Hoover Dam and finally makes his presence known. He quickly confederates various tribes around the ruins of Vegas and begins the process of rebuilding. He used his new power to sign the New Vegas Treaty with the NCR, establishing New Vegas as a free economic zone, keeping it free from the NCR. For now. In exchange, the NCR can use Hoover Dam for its electricity and the McCarran International Airport as a military stronghold, and establish an embassy along the strip. New Vegas may be free for now, but the writing is on the wall. The NCR is positioning itself to annex the city as the sixth state in its growing empire. Meanwhile, Mr. House is far from content with merely controlling the New Vegas Strip. His ambitions stretch across the entire region, including Hoover Dam. Behind the scenes, Mr. House is working to awaken a vast army of upgraded robots, and House sees an opportunity to strike while the NCR is embroiled in a new brutal conflict against a new enemy. However, the NCR's opponent is no mere upstart raider tribe. Rather, it is the greatest threat the Republic has ever faced, in one of Fallout's bloodiest regimes. Caesar's Legion is a totalitarian dictatorship centered around a warrior culture led by one of Fallout's most brutal characters, Edward Sallow, or as he now fancies himself, Caesar. Sallow used to be a linguist for the group called the Followers of the Apocalypse, which is a faction that deserves its own dedicated video, but to sum them up, they're basically a charity group. In 2246, Sallow and a small group of followers were sent east towards the Grand Canyon to study the dialect of the tribes living in the area. Along the way, Sallow came across a cache of old Roman history books, which he studied and took great inspiration from. A short while later, Sallow and 2 others would be kidnapped by the Blackfoot tribe. I'll let Caesar describe them.
They were a backward bunch, but the real problem was they didn't know how to fight. I taught them how to use the guns they already had, how to strip and clean them, how to breathe when pulling a trigger, how to reload ammunition. They looked at me like I was some kind of a sorcerer, so I taught them how to make explosives and started drilling them on small unit tactics.
Caesar and the Blackfoot tribe were successful in defeating the 7 other tribes and confederated under Caesar. After that, Caesar erased any defining culture from all these tribes, replacing it with only the Legion to unite them all.
I knew from the start I'd need to eradicate this plague of tribal identities, replacing them with a monolithic culture, a uniform identity. So that's what I did once my confederation of tribes was large enough. I crowned myself Caesar and created a single great tribe, my Legion.
Rinse and repeat, with upwards of 87 tribes now marching under the banner of the Bull. Caesar's empire stretches through New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Arizona, and now the Legion marches onto Hoover Dam. In 2277, the full might of Caesar's Legion came down onto the Republic at the First Battle of Hoover Dam. The NCR won this battle for various reasons, like targeting Legion commanders with their sharpshooters, setting a trap at Boulder City, blowing it up, and killing the elite troops of Caesar's Legion. Now in 2281, the Legion is rebuilt to full strength and ready to strike at the dam once more. The new California Republic is fortifying its defenses, bracing itself for the Second Battle of Hoover Dam. House is scheming to steal the dam from under the Republic's grasp, and Caesar simply waits for the arrival of the rest of his military to finally cross his very own Rubicon. And then there's you, the player, the wild card of this conflict. In your hands lies the keys that will shape the fate of empires, to tip the scale in any direction that you choose. But what happens when you decide that the winds of fate should favor you? And that's the story of Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 4 never tells us what happened after the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, but I think Season 2 of Fallout will lay it out plainly for us. So what do I think happened to New Vegas, Caesar's Legion, House, and the NCR? Let's start with the easiest one, Caesar's Legion. I think Caesar lost the second battle, and even if he did win, it really wouldn't matter in the long run. Firstly, it's spelled out to us quite clearly that the Legion is following Edward, not the Legion. And when he dies, his empire will shatter in the same fashion that Alexander the Great's empire shattered immediately after his death.
Given a year, they'd have him deified. But by then, the Legion will be breaking down, riven by internal conflicts, a monster consuming itself.
No doubt this will be good for the Mojave. I can only hope Arizona and the tribes don't suffer as the Legion falls apart around them. I think only Caesar can lead the Legion. I've never met anyone who could take his place. I couldn't. I never had a mind for logistics.
And Caesar's death is coming sooner rather than later. We discover in-game that the dude just has brain cancer, and without the help of the player, he is going to die shortly after the battle. Unlike the real Julius Caesar, Edward takes so much inspiration from, he has no Octavian Caesar to follow him as an heir. Sure, his current heir is Legate Lanius, but he's no statesman, just a warrior. After Caesar's death, the Legion will turn on itself and devour itself from within. So even if the Legion wins, besides the fact that House will be dead, not much will change. Plus, there is a cool theory that remnants of the Legion joined the Brotherhood of Steel. We see this in their color scheme, iconography, and naming system. Usually Brotherhood members use Arthurian legend names, but in the show they're all Roman. Maximus, Quintus, Thaddeus. It could be a cool concept. I'm 50-50 on whether the NCR won the Second Battle of Hoover Dam or not. In reality, it doesn't matter if they did or not, as we see in the TV show. They barely have a presence in what should be their core territory, but the last shot of the show has us going through what looks like the ruins of Vegas, and it's not a pretty sight. There's Deathclaw skeletons, NCR equipment, and dead Securitrons. But why would there be NCR equipment still littering the streets of Vegas nearly 20 years after the Battle of Hoover Dam? My theory is that the NCR did win the battle, defeated House, and made New Vegas the new capital of the NCR. Now hold on there, cowboy, stay with me here. I have evidence. Okay, not evidence, but speculation supported by sprinkles of evidence. We know for a fact the NCR is working on annexing New Vegas and incorporating it as the sixth state of the Union. The Hoover Dam, once fully operational, will become the most important producer of electricity and water in the entire region. And New Vegas is already a rich city with its massive tourist economy. Plus, it would be placed on the frontier of NCR and closest to their largest enemy, Caesar's Legion. Empires tended to do that. The Roman Empire's capital was moved to Constantinople under Constantine's reign to be closer to his main rival, the Sassanid Empire. Vegas is the perfect location for a new capital city. In the TV show, it's shown to us that Shady Sands was the first capital of the NCR, meaning that they did move it. Of course, they had plenty of options to choose from. New Reno, Vault City, the Hub, San Francisco, but in my opinion, New Vegas would be the perfect candidate for a new capital city. Now, why would we see the ruins of Vegas, or at least a hasty evacuation? Well, besides the slight inconvenience that happens at Shady Sands, we have more clues coming from the Lonesome Road DLC. In the Lonesome Road DLC, one of the new enemies introduced are the Tunnelers, a subterranean reptilian humanoid creature that rapidly breeds and are spreading fast. Ulysses, the main antagonist of the DLC, shares his theories on the Tunnelers.
Tunnelers. Predators that make their own roads beneath the ground here. Divide broke their sky, showed them the world above, and the scent of new prey. Be a slower death for the Mojave than bombs and fire, but they'll come for its people, from where they least expect, below. Death will come from below. In the divide, need to watch the sky and the ground. Mojave will be easy prey for them. They'll start emerging throughout the Mojave in time. Might be years, probably less. They breed fast, hunt in groups, more than enough to bring down the strongest in the Mojave, once they draw blood. Seen them tear apart Deathclaws. Deathclaw might get some, but the rest will swarm it, tear it apart, like Denver hounds.
So I believe if the NCR wins the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, they move their capital to New Vegas, develop it for a few years, and then get invaded by the Tunnelers, destroying the city and forcing an evacuation. That, on top of Vault-Tec remnants nuking Shady Sands, would have left the NCR in a completely crippled state that we see it in the show. Now, this theory is not the strongest, and there are a lot of assumptions being thrown around, like there is no real evidence that the NCR moved their capital to Vegas. It's just vibes, basically. It could have just as easily been Vault City or somewhere else. But I also don't think that's the direction the show will take the narrative. In the first season, they set up Mr. House to be an important player in collaborating with Vault-Tec's plan to destroy the world and rebuild it for themselves. And the only way that the NCR can win the Second Battle of Hoover Dam is if House is eliminated. And that's obviously why Hank is heading to Vegas, to meet with House. What exactly Hank is going to discuss with House, if House is even alive, we'll have to wait and see. That leads us to our next theory. I believe the House ending is probably the most likely scenario. With the assistance of the Courier, helping the NCR defeat Caesar's Legion, then demanding an immediate withdrawal from the region, House explains in this ending it would send the NCR back home into political chaos.
Kimball's entire political career is inextricably bound up with the NCR's occupation of the Mojave. It's his war. If I compel the NCR to retreat, Kimball will be the sacrifice offered to the gods so decent NCR citizens can get on with their lives. In retrospect, the Mojave and Hoover Dam will seem like one man's misadventure. Kimball will be blamed, not me. not New Vegas.
Political chaos, combined with the bombing of Shady Sands, can lead to the NCR we see in the show just as easily as the NCR having 2 capitals destroyed. Now for the ruins we see at the end credits, once again I'm going to play my Tunnelers card and use them to explain the destruction of the strip. Although with the backing of an upgraded Securitron army, I'm not sure how likely the scenario could be. But another theory I would like to put out there is House just sucks as a governing body. Sure, he's very charismatic, but he's very egotistical, talks about how New Vegas under his control will have fucking moon colonies.
With all that money pouring in, give me 20 years and I'll reignite the high technology development sectors. 50 years and I'll have people in orbit. 100 years and my colony ships will be heading for the stars to search for planets unpolluted by the wrath and folly of a bygone generation.
Besides quickly confederating the tribes in the ruins of Vegas and sucking up to the NCR, he didn't really prove he would be good at governing independently. Even the tribes he confederated with don't want him running things. At the beginning of the game, the Omertas are already in cahoots with Caesar's Legion, the White Glove Society can be convinced to join Caesar's Legion, and the leader of the chairman from the Tops Casino, fucking Veni, is planning to kill House and take over for himself. All 3 of the great families want House dead. So it's not an unlikely scenario that after House wins, the great families just rebel. Or maybe the NCR refused to leave peacefully and completely destroyed the strip on their way out. Either way, the first season sets up House to play a major role in season 2, with Hank looking for him, so House needs to survive the events of Fallout New Vegas, and the only way that happens is through Mr. House ending. So House has to be alive for season 2 to work. Right? We really don't know what Hank wants, and he might not even need House, but something that's in the Lucky 38 that leads me to our last possibility. I'm not sure how likely this scenario is, but I'm going to rank it slightly higher than the NCR ending on the possibility of the show writers using this ending. But within New Vegas, there is the possibility to completely destroy the region as the courier and set New Vegas to be a truly free nation. Free from the NCR, Caesar's Legion, House, and even a functioning government. Whether you destroy the Securitron army or if you keep it, the ending makes it very obvious that anarchy rules the region, with the courier just barely being able to restore order within the city limits only if you decide to keep the robot army for yourself.
The courier, with the aid of Yes Man, drove both the Legion and the NCR from Hoover Dam, securing New Vegas's independence from both factions. With Mr. House out of the picture, part of the Securitron army was diverted to the Strip to keep order. Any chaos on the streets was ended. Quickly. Chaos became uncertainty, then acceptance with minimal loss of life. New Vegas assumed its position as an independent power in the Mojave.
If you decide to destroy the Securitron army and try the anarchy thing, well...
With Mr. House out of the picture, the remaining Securitrons on the Strip were hard-pressed to keep order. Anarchy ruled the streets.
There's one specific ending that could set up a truly clean slate for the Mojave Wasteland to be re-explored in the show, and is one the writers might lean into if they want to fully reset the stage. In Fallout New Vegas, when pursuing an independent run, you face a pivotal choice early on. Do you destroy Mr. House's Securitron army or steal it for yourself? If you choose to destroy it and then continue the independent quest line, you're left scrambling to find another way to protect New Vegas from NCR and Caesar's Legion. The only option is to disable Hoover Dam, and rendering the region's most strategic asset, possibly even the whole West Coast's most important structure, completely useless.
This is neat. From this console, I could have routed the dam's power input over to the fort and activated that dormant army of Securitrons. So, go ahead and blow up the dam's generators.
This ending is bleak, much worse than the standard independent route, where you keep the robot army for yourself and keep Hoover Dam running, but it checks every box for a narrative reset. It explains the ruins of New Vegas, shown at the ending credits. It leaves Mr. House dead, ensuring the Lucky 38 is accessible for Hank to acquire whatever he's looking for in there. With the Mojave stripped of its major power players, the region becomes a desolate, almost empty wasteland for new protagonists to explore. This choice opens the door for, in my opinion, maximum freedom, giving writers the chance to craft a fresh and unpredictable story while leaving behind enough mystery to keep fans invested. It's a harsh, bitter ending to one of the greatest RPG stories ever written, but goddammit, it might just be the perfect way to turn the page away from Fallout New Vegas. And that's everything you need to know before the release of Fallout Season 2. I could be dead wrong about my theories of what happened after the events of Fallout New Vegas, but if I had to rank my theories from most likely to least likely, I would rank them House ending, Independent ending, tied with the NCR ending, and then Legion ending. I could be dead wrong again, and maybe the show will have something completely different happening. Let me know what you think in the comments below. While you're on your way down there, go ahead and give that subscribe and like button a sweet, gentle click. It really does help motivate me to make more content, more than you know. Also check out my Warhammer vids. Thank you.